that it is actually live, though it does tell me that it's live, because I am not using my regular platform. So I'm trying something new, guys. I'm sorry if you're watching me just talk right now, live on Game Changer Sports Network, and we're live. So fantastic. I have an interview here with, gosh, one of the best MMA fighters out there. If you don't know who Jon Fitch is, do you really know MMA? I reached out to him during this crazy time to try and get him to talk to us, and he's agreed. So I got him on webcam. So here's Jon Fitch. How's it going?
What's up, man?
How's it going?
I'm good.
So what are you doing during this crazy time to just try and pass the time? I know you got your YouTube video, YouTube channel. You're using YouTube quite a bit. Are you reaching out to a bunch of people that way?
I've been doing. I use the StreamYard too, and I've been doing my Jon Fitch Knows Nothing podcast for a while. I do mixed martial mindset podcast every Monday with Jason Burmis. I do a Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything podcast with Chris Tinkle, who's a comedian. And then on Sundays I have the Red Pill Smash Brothers, and that's yeah. So I got a number of live streams and podcasts, and then I've got a weight cutting book I'm working on. It should be coming out soon. Working on the cover right now, and I just got a lot of stuff. Always doing something.
Keep him busy. Keep him busy. Yeah. When did you start this book? This is the first time I've heard about this book.
Well, I came out with a book last year. That was going over some of my my old journals. I'm supposed to be writing more, but I've been sidetracked. But this new one is it's going to be a short book, kind of ebook, but you can buy a paperback too. It'll be cheap, but it's just basically my explanation of what I do that 8 weeks that I'm losing weight to get down to 170 for a fight.
Right. So when you first started fighting, you were originally a light heavyweight, and you cut all the way down to welterweight.
So I had no idea how big these guys were. I didn't know guys were cutting that weight, and so I was walking around like at 202, and I was like, I'll just fight light heavyweight. I'll lift weights. I'll be all right. I had no idea what I was doing. This is back in the Stone Ages. I didn't bring a cup. I didn't have a cup for my first professional fight because we didn't wrestle with cups, so I never thought you would need one in a fight. It didn't occur to me.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I was going to ask you about is you had been fighting since 2002, and it's 2020 now. Your first professional fight was in 2002. I'm sure you fought way before 2002.
Actually, because there's no regulation back there, so I fought him. My first fight was a professional fight, and I lost that, and then I did a amateur tournament.
Okay, all right. So my question is though you started at 2002 and now that it's 2020, where have you seen this fight game adapt from 2002 all the way to 2020, and how have you personally adapted?
Man, I've come to embrace the sales aspect of the game a little bit, because you do need notoriety. You need to get yourself out there in a way where you're responsible for yourself, and you don't have to lean on the promotion, or you don't need the promotion to promote you. But that's come along with a lot of changes with how the industry's changed over the years. Because promoters in MMA, they don't really promote you anymore. You have to already be established before they'll use you to sell tickets. Traditionally it was, the promotion would put time, energy, and money into an athlete and build them up, and then they'd get the payback on the sales of that growth of that athlete. But now it's just kind of, they have a money printing machine, and as long as they just keep putting on fights, people are going to buy into it, and they're making money, and they don't have to pay the athletes very much. And I don't know. the sport is a little bit more like pro wrestling today than it was when I first started.
Okay. All right.
There's
So
there's a lot more competition between promotions at the time because you could go to Pride and fight in Japan, UFC, King of the Cage, um, uh, um, what was the other one they bought? There was a number of smaller fights where you could go and fight often and still make decent money. So, and the UFC hadn't started paying that much yet. So there was a lot more leverage because if a promotion wasn't kind of cool with you and they treat you bad, didn't pay right or whatever, like you could always go somewhere else.
right. Okay. So I kind of want to caveat on that. So how do you feel about now that the fact that when you're talking about well, you have to sell yourself, but back in the day, you guys were able to use sponsors on like your shorts and stuff like that.
Mhm. Oh well, just highlight videos. Guys could somebody could a fan could put together a highlight video and put up on YouTube.
Right.
Now you can't even do that because all the footage
Copyright
is
infringement.
copyrighted and owned. And, I think that's one of the ugly things about the sport too is that that fight that you're involved in, that's a piece of art. It's like a piece of music, and for you to not get residual payments off of it being sold over and over and over again, all the fights that are on that Fight Pass, like people pay to watch old fights. Great, especially if you're in a great fight that people watch a lot. Like you should make money off of your old fights.
Yeah,
But
I absolutely
we
I
can't even use
love
them to
that.
make a can't even make a highlight reel out of them.
Yeah, so I'm just to caveat off of that. Wow, man, I didn't even think about that at all. For what do you feel about even like when it comes to basketball or baseball or football? I mean,
Well,
even in the NFL has a monopoly on hey, you can't make
no, no,
these.
no, no. The Players Association owns NFL Films.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So it's
these
just kind
guys
of
have
trickled down
footage. They
to
have the
MMA.
ability to use their game footage, their creation, to make money off of it.
Wow. Okay. And so that kind of screws you guys out of the sponsorship deals too, because I mean, if you get a highlight reel and you're signed by whey protein, that's not going to get put up on a highlight
Well, I
reel
mean,
anymore.
the sponsorship market's been just obliterated.
Yeah.
Uh, there's just nobody really around. They started when UFC started taxing the sponsors. They put a lot of those sponsors out of business. They couldn't continue to pay their athletes and pay the UFC. So
Right.
a lot of companies stepped away from MMA, and then the ones that were like small mom and pop shop T-shirt companies, they went out of business, and then UFC slowly rolled in the Reebok, and then all sponsorships were gone. And then the company that owns and has controls 90% of the market and most of the eyeballs doesn't have any other sponsors but Reebok. There's not a lot of interest in people putting money into those small shows. There's not enough eyeballs on the fighters. There's not enough return on what they're paying for.
Yeah. Wow. I really didn't even think about how crazy that is, man. That's insane. Um. Yeah, that's
I mean,
nuts.
because back, 2006 to 2009 ish.
I mean, guys were
You
wearing
you
Bad Boy on their ass all
you
day.
yep, you'd for each little spot would be anywhere from $2,500 to $15,000 per patch, and if you're a big
Yeah.
guy like Chuck, he was getting like 20,000 a patch. So like
Yeah.
these guys were making crazy money. I remember everybody had a shit fit when Hoist Gracie came out with that, like, I don't know, was it a gi or a shirt? He had so many sponsors on it.
Yo,
Like
I
he
didn't
made like
even
a
think
hundred
about
thousand
that.
dollars in sponsorships, but it looked awful. But like, why not? Man, he cashed in on it.
Yeah, why? I mean, why not try to get a little bit of extra on the side? I mean, it's not like the UFC's or Bellator or anything like that is really paying fighters significant in comparison to other sports, right?
But I mean, the money's kind of there for the UFC to pay considerably more.
Okay.
You know, they're
Well, I
by
mean, they have the Reebok sponsor, so
well by design they're only paying out. I think it's 19% of their event revenue. So
okay.
they're purposely only capping it at that much, where every other sport is at least 50%.
So you're looking at nickels and dimes with the UFC at that point, then.
Well, I mean, if every other sport is 50% and they're making, 19%, so they're making half as much, at least half as much as they should be.
Wow, wow, man, that's crazy. I didn't think about that. Let me steer
And
this
then you
into
have,
another direct.
individual sports like boxing, they can make up to 85% of whatever the gate is.
Right off the purse, right? Just from the purse, right?
Mhm.
So let me steer this into another direction here. On your social media pages, you've been posting quarantine workouts. What made you decide to try and keep other people active during this time of craziness?
Because one, I'm being a little bit goofy, and because I wanted to keep it light. Yeah, it's confusing. We don't know what's going on, but there's nothing you can do, nothing much you can do about it. Just relax, keep your family close, and then, but don't get stressed out. And working out and being keeping fit can help relieve some stress. So, I threw some quick little workouts together so people could have something to play with. Because I don't know, some people just might not have any idea of what they could do to work out. Maybe they got stuff laid around the house they can use.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. So you haven't had a fight since last April, right?
Mhm.
Do you plan on fighting anytime soon? Is I mean, there's obviously a lot of
Well,
crazy going on,
I
but
was
I mean,
really hoping that I would get offered the winner of Rory and Lima, and I was kind of hanging out for that to see if that was a possibility. But then now they're going to have Lima and Masasi fight for the 85-pound belt. So I asked to get put back on the rotation to see if they had anybody for me, see if I could possibly get like number one contender type fight.
right.
See if that's possible. Maybe Larkin or MVP or somebody like that. And then if I win, let me fight for the 70-pound title. I'm almost too old to do this anymore.
Yeah, this bouncing back and forth type of a thing.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just getting old.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
I've been fighting
Understandable.
for 17 and a half years.
Yeah.
If I can get one more in, it'll be a good 18 years of fighting. So it's pretty good. I'd like to go 20 years would be awesome, but I don't know.
I'm sure it's rigorous on your body at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I just uh, the diet and the cardio and everything.
I'm understandable. So when did you get into MMA or martial arts, and what actually drew you into fighting?
Well, I started wrestling and I was about 9 years old when
Okay.
I started wrestling. And no, I just fell in love with wrestling, fell in love with battling. I was always attracted to fighting and anything in GI Joe, Thundercats, whatever. I used to watch a lot of pro wrestling until I went to my first wrestling practice and realized it was fake. Um, but no, and then I just always thought it was cool. And I got to Purdue, was wrestled at Purdue, and my assistant coach Tom Erickson, one of the heavy, was a big heavyweight guy. Um, he he had fought in Brazil and he'd fought in Pride a few times, and then around sophomore junior year, throughout the years he would have Gary Goodrich and Mark Coleman come through and train, and every once in a while I would just stand back and check it out, and um, it was just kind of like an alternate workout, something to do. I would sweat, lose some more weight because I was cutting weight and stuff, and it was just fun. And then I remember thinking, you know, uh, towards the end of my sophomore year, not my sophomore year, towards the end of my junior year, before my senior year, I was wrestling with Gary and I was taking him down, and I was doing really well with him. I was like, man, like, what if I did this? What if I went to try doing this? And then going into my senior year, I had in the back of my head that I might want to try fighting. So I would train a little bit more with Gary and Mark and Tom whenever they had somebody come through. I think Ian Freeman came through once, and um, no, it was just something fun to do, and I didn't want to start teaching right away after school because that's what I was doing in college. I got my degree in education, and when I did my student teaching, I realized I didn't really want to do it.
Did you know who Gary Goodrich and Mark Coleman were when they were brought in? Like, were you following what was going on then, or you were just like, oh, these are just some big name wrestlers?
No, I only saw the first I saw Gary was his fight with Tom, and it already happened by the time I saw it. I think I had a VHS of it, and uh, yeah, he that was I just met him then, and then I started watching his fights and when I could. And Coleman, I think I had seen a couple times through the UFC, but I didn't know much about him, and it was just cool getting to meet him. And he was an interesting person, very intense person.
Okay, I would only imagine. Um, so what were your thoughts on the fight with Rory, and how your thoughts are with how the rest of the tournament played out?
I think I won the fight. I'm positive I won that fight. I can't believe that they called that a draw. I had all the judges gave me, I think, the third round a 10-8 round. Two of the judges called it a tie. One said I won. I figured if I have the most judges saying I win, I should have won. But I don't know. It just sucks that I didn't get to fight him again uh, for the title, or I don't know. I missed out on $1 million, and I missed out on the title. It's kind of garbage.
Was there any kind of discrepancy that you brought up to them on how they handled both of you guys with the draw when there was a tournament going on?
Well, you just can't. I mean, that's just how the thing. That's how it's written. That's how it is. If you gotta beat the champ to take the title. If it's a
Okay.
draw, everything stays the same, and the title has to go forward. I mean, it makes sense. There's nothing much to do about it. I'm more upset about the judges and the fact that we don't really have any criteria towards what scoring is or how scoring should be done. Everybody talks about they shouldn't have blind scores. They should tell you the score after every round, stuff like that. But it still doesn't solve the problem of what are the scoring criteria.
Right.
Like
And
what is it that this person has to do to get a 10-8 round or a 10-9 round? Like what is a protocol? It should be written down in a way that anybody could come off the street and read it and watch a fight and call it the right way.
it seems pretty like subjective to the judges, in
Hmm.
my opinion.
Yeah.
So I mean, it really, like, the way I see it is the judge can make his own. This is how I see the criteria, and I make my own judgment off of that, and that doesn't seem very black and white.
Mm-mm. No, definitely.
So then, while we're on the subject, what are your thoughts on fights ending in a draw? And do you think that maybe MMA should maybe implement an extra round to break that draw, or maybe do you guys just fight and have another rematch, or what do you think about it? You've been in quite a few draws and no contests.
No, I mean, I don't know. We could just go back in prehistoric and do it the way they did it way back in the day and just fight until somebody was done.
I
No
actually
time,
like
no
that. It
time
was
limits, no
very
rounds.
entertaining.
No time limits, no rounds. Just go until somebody's done.
There's a lot of precincts against that, though. So I mean,
Mhm. Well,
um,
I mean, it's because they had to add time limits and rounds to make it more consumable
viewable.
by the fans.
Yeah,
Yeah. As a fighter, I would rather just,
just go,
just go.
just bang it out.
Yeah, just wait till somebody says they're done.
I like it. Okay. Um, man. So I mean, obviously that would be fantastic. I mean, I don't know about any other fans out there, but I would like to watch that. That would be cool. But if that
That's a
wasn't the
fight.
case,
Put it
and
together.
we're still following the rules of rounds and stuff like that, do you think adding an extra round would break that draw, or do you think that it's better that they make a black and white of the rules?
No, I thought it would be interesting to do live uh, scores. So each round, you see who's winning, and then if it's a draw going into after that last round, then I don't know, maybe do a 3 minute quick round. Yeah, 3 minutes to finish.
Yeah, I'm on board with that
Well, I
too,
mean, I don't
man.
know. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know. I just think the criteria on the scoring would be very helpful, and it's less ambiguous, less room for error.
Do you so what do you think the biggest issue of the what leads us to a draw is just because of the black and white, or the lack thereof of the black and white, or
A little
somebody
bit.
isn't there giving a breakdown of why you lost this round or why you won this round?
Well, no, yeah, I think it should be pretty clear. I think it should be pretty black and white. You know how you see what's going on with the round. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna happen sometimes because some people are just gonna fight even, and if they're especially when both people are kind of holding back, it happens. And you also have 5 minute rounds, so that can happen in 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that 5 minute round, that momentum is gonna shift and change a few times. So I mean, you're always gonna have issues because somebody may start really strong in the round, but then fade towards the end, and the judge may think of more of what happened at the beginning of the round than how they faded at the end, or vice versa.
My biggest issue with it, and maybe tell me how you think about it, is when you, let's just for instance, in the UFC they say octagon control.
Yeah,
That is so,
it's
like,
arbitrary. It's very. I mean, yeah, like what exactly is the control? Because I could very well argue that there's times when um moving like Lyoto Machida, who's very elusive backing away. He's in control of the ring, but he's moving backwards.
right.
So I mean, it's arbitrary. So one judge can look at him and be like, "Ah, well, he's backing up all the time. He's not dominating the cage. I think he lost the round." And then the other judge sees it's the exact opposite. It's
Right, because he's waiting and picking for his shots. Right.
so it's there's a different style of control, but like there's control being exhibited.
So I mean, what if it? I mean, you're a jujitsu guy. What do you think about? I mean, hey, you were on top of me the whole time, but I was playing pretty good control from the bottom. But it shows that, hey, you were on top of me the whole time instead of me being aggressive from the bottom.
Yeah, that's man, that's one of the big problems that they created when they started standing guys up fast was guys on the bottom stopped fighting. They started just closing their guard and getting overhooks and then holding the head down, and they would kind of stall things out, and the ref would stand them up to get the action going again. And so they're basically rewarding stalling. And
Right.
I think that's been a big hindrance in the development of jujitsu in the fight game, especially in the UFC, because they reward the stand and bang quite often. So I think a lot of guys are less likely to actually try to sweep. Like they don't sweep. Like they might go for a submission, but if they lose it, then they just hold on until they get stood up.
I mean, I've even seen guys sit in like a rubber guard for a while and just hold somebody
Yeah.
down, where you're holding them in a rubber guard for
Mhm.
however long, and there's so many opportunity for you to do something
Yep.
with that rubber guard, and you just don't.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're just tying them up. They're being heavy. They're preventing them from throwing any punches, and they're hoping that the crowd boos enough to get them to stand up.
Oh man, I'm loving this conversation, man. You're seriously, I'm loving this. I'm sorry. um, so where did the Fitch face come from?
I don't know, man. I've been kind of doing the whatever, making shitty smiles since I was a little kid, I guess. Smart ass, never. My son does it now. He can't take a serious picture unless I catch him not paying attention.
So it just over time just became the Fitch
Hmm.
face.
Yeah, well, I think it slipped out a few times. It's kind of on accident or whatever. Getting pictures taken, I just kept it.
Okay, I like it. Are you still running around in Bellator using that? Just kind of like
Yeah, it's still
just
there. I still
that's
bring it
it.
out, still break it out all the time.
Okay. Um. So I would say, me personally, that you fought during the golden age of when MMA was really skyrocketing.
Hmm.
Um. Were would you say and you were fighting at the UFC during this time, but your last fight was in Bellator. What are your thoughts on Bellator and Bellator seeming to be where all of these golden age fighters are fighting now, where Bellator is taking the veterans and giving them a place to fight?
No, it's they do a good job. Scott Coker's great. He does a good job with promoting. He knows how to promote. He's been doing it for a long time. He was doing this kickboxing stuff long time before he did Strike Force, and then he was successful with that company. He's doing a great job with Bellator. It's got a great atmosphere. It kind of feels like the old UFCs back then, before kind of
Yeah.
like everybody started walking around on eggshells and whatever. But no, it's good. It's a good situation. But UFC controls so much of the market. Like, all the other promoters are fighting for 10%.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm you So you can't technically monopolize on something because there's so many other like undercard, like I wouldn't call them undercard, but like lower tier MMA companies, I guess.
Mhm.
And so technically you can't really monopolize on that, right? But essentially the UFC has done everything but
No, you
bought out
can
all the undercard.
if you can show that you control more than 90% of a market. You can show that
Would you
they're
say that they control 90% of
yes,
the market?
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Probably
absolutely agree with you.
financially
I'm not
more than
disagreeing with you at all.
financially more than 90% of the market is UFC in
Yeah,
MMA.
for sure.
And then they control 90% also of the top fighters in every weight class,
Yeah.
which it's hard to prove that they're not, because they have
Of how many other companies that are out there, right?
um yeah, but they don't make up that much of a market, and we're saying that they've monopolized the titles also, because they bought up all the titles, all the major titles, and they have prevented fighters from doing things that independent contractors are supposed to be guaranteed to do, like you're not allowed to have an independent contractor wear a uniform. um they,
Whoa.
they should be able to have sponsors. um
Right.
there's just a lot of behaviors that they're exuding that they're monopolistic. Their contracts, they're holding a monopoly on the top fighters through their contracts.
Does Bellator sign you guys to a contract or is it a fight to fight basis?
No, it's similar.
Okay. So do you think that these other companies have adapted that because that's the way to keep these fighters here because of what the UFC has
if
done?
if a monopoly is in a market, like, everybody else in that market has to adhere to their behaviors, otherwise they won't survive in the market,
Right.
or they have to become more corrupt than the monopoly to compete. If you do things the right way, you're going to go out of business.
Right.
So that's one
Shit.
reason why you see bare knuckle fighting popping up now, right? It's not bare knuckle boxing. It's not boxing. They're not ruled by the Ali Act.
Right.
There's basically just another form of
So I mean, it's pancrase with your hands closed.
it's basically it's special rules MMA with no gloves,
Right.
because that's the business model. It's
Right.
the pro wrestling business model.
Man, that's crazy. So, but I mean, if you think about it with just like MMA, but you could look at like I'm even kickboxing. I know they're two different sports, but you could still say like UFC has taken all of the great kickboxers and adapted them to, trying to learn how to do ground game type of a thing, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the money is in a lot of the kickboxing, but the kickboxing does have sanctioning body titles also.
Right.
There are the green belts, and the same some of the same boxing entities have sanctioning bodies. So you have some kickboxing promoters. No, I don't. So yeah, the promoters in kickboxing don't control the title.
Okay.
So MMA is the only sport ever where the promoter or event thrower controls exclusive contracts and the title. That's something that was supposed to have been banned in the late 1800s.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't even think about that. That's wild, man.
So
Did
yeah, so the entity that um, controls the title, controls the rank, controls the money, also controls the exclusive contracts. Like they have all the power. There's no separation of power there. Like all the contracts, everything is take it or leave it.
right? No, I that's crazy. I didn't even think about that like that. Did they don't have anything like that in jujitsu either, right? Like it's not. I mean, there's the invitational, right? But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. So the invitational, so in jiu-jitsu, there's no, especially in a individual sport, you can go to multiple tournaments.
right,
You don't sign a contract and you're only allowed to go to this
that spot.
company's. Yeah. Some
Wow.
people are arguing though that IBJJF is getting to be a monopoly.
Right. So that's what I was trying to lean towards was is do you think
Yeah,
that that's
I'm not as familiar with that situation, but it has something to do with like they're the big company that now if you want to do jiu-jitsu, you have to pay into them, and they control most of the big tournaments, and
okay?
like all the gyms have they're supposed to register with this company, but it's like who's this company? Why do they own jiu-jitsu?
Right. When you hang up the gloves, do you think that you might get into doing jujitsu or like doing like jujitsu tournaments, or do you still do that now? Or
I mean, I'll take offers if it's an interesting offer. It's possible. But I mean, I teach, I coach, I have. I'm gonna do some online courses and stuff, so people can learn some of my fight system stuff.
okay,
I've been doing self defense. Well, once this quarantine stuff is over, I'll get back to doing my self defense seminars, and eventually I'm going to put together a self defense course also to put online, so a lot more people can access it.
are you in a spot where you're not allowed to go to the gym?
What's that?
Are you in a spot where you're not allowed to go to the gym?
But I'm in San Jose, and yeah,
So AKA is shut down.
they're about ready to quarantine the city, I think.
Oh shit. So you haven't been to AKA in a while?
Not in at least a week. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So you've fought a lot of people over the years. You've had a very long career. You've even had a title shot against GSP and fought Pride veteran Akihiro Gono and Jake Shields, Thiago Alves, Diego Sanchez. The list goes on and on. Of all of these wars that you've taken a part of, what do you think your most standout moment in your career was?
Oh, man, one of my favorites was the Eric Silva fight down in Brazil.
Okay.
That was pretty great. That was a great fight. The GSP fight, that whole training camp and experiences fight. I have a documentary called Such Great Heights. It's up on Amazon Prime. You guys can watch that. It's the documentary of the lead up of the St. Pierre fight and the fight. um, it's been out for a while now, almost 10 years, I guess. And then the Jake Shields fight, New Year's in New York City, was pretty awesome too.
Okay. All right. Um, how much do other fighters from your AKA camp get involved in each other's fights? So if say you're set up for a fight next week, how much are you working with other guys from your camp that have either a fought him or have worked with him in the past to try and give you some pointers or some tips to be like, hey, try this, try that.
I mean, yeah, whenever we have, somebody we're fighting and people have info, I mean, we're always watching each other and working and working to get better. So, yeah, we've got a ton of dudes at the gym, and everybody's pretty good team as far as people working together and helping each other out and grow.
Okay, I like that. Cool. Um, obviously, you said that you've done fights in Brazil against Eric. You said that. What other traveling have you done in your career, and what was the coolest traveling experience that you've had?
Well, I mean, I've been to a lot of cool places, but I got to spend a month in Thailand. That was pretty awesome. Just being in another country for 30 days and acclimating and eating the food and getting to know your way around and everything. So that was a great experience. I think everybody should try to get out of the country for a month, just live somewhere else. It's wild.
Yeah.
And then all my trips to Japan, I love. They're all pretty awesome. I'm lucky to go on like 5 times for only for like a week each time. It's like I think Tokyo for the most part, but just yeah, the food. It's a food adventure. You
It's
just
a food
yeah,
adventure.
you just walk around and eat shit and drink. It's awesome. Ride around on trains.
When you're done with the fight in Japan, have you fought in Japan?
I
I'm
fought in
sorry,
Japan once,
once.
like 2003, I think,
Okay.
and then I cornered there a few times.
Okay, so when you go to Japan and you are the fighter, after you're done fighting, do you just immediately leave or do you hang out there for like a day or two and just kind of soak it in?
When I did fight, I think I got one night to like hang out and party and go to Rapungi. But
Mhm.
yeah, we had one night there the first night. So that was pretty cool about getting to go back when I didn't have to fight, is I got to do a lot of cool stuff and see temples and drink lots of sake, and yeah,
What's
it
a,
was a good
what's
time.
what's Rapungi?
Rapungi is like it's where all the tourists and where all the hookers and stuff are, all the nightclubs.
Okay, all right, cool.
I did. The first time I went, we went. It's like where everybody goes, but like I never went back there because it's not that. It's not really my scene.
Hey man.
Well, because you're in Japan and it's more Western than anything.
Okay,
Everybody speaks English. There's a lot of white people.
so is a legit like just a conglomerate of tourists and
Yeah,
where
it's like where
people
the
are
foreigners
to
like
Japan.
congregate and all the
Okay, okay.
mischief.
Rakongi, huh?
Rapungi.
Rapungi.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
Not that I'm into hookers like that or anything, but um, what are you working on for your YouTube channel? I really want to try it because you took the moment to like give me some time to talk. I want to give you a second to tell us what you're doing on YouTube and maybe some other projects that you are currently working on so that people can check it out because there isn't anything going on in the
Hmm.
sports world. So please check out what Jon Fitch is doing. What is Jon Fitch doing?
Yeah, well, I've been doing my podcast mostly, and I've made some other one-off videos where I'm talking about some topical stuff. Moving forward, I'm going to be putting a lot of my technique videos on Rockfin, which is a different platform, but YouTube will be a lot of vlogs and the podcasts. And then
I like your
yeah.
podcast, man. I since I reached out to you, I checked out a few episodes of your break short.
Oh,
That's what's
the break, the shake break.
shake break. That's what it's
Yeah.
called.
So yeah, that was my. I did live streams for about a year. I called the shake break, and then I changed the name and upgraded to a podcast. Like the beginning of the year, but I got a lot of shake breaks. Yeah, I would. I would drink my protein shake every morning, and while I was having my protein shake, I'd turn on the live stream and talk to people.
Okay, I like that. And then your actual podcast now is called Jon Fitch Knows Nothing.
Yep.
Okay, is there anywhere else other than YouTube that they can find it?
Yeah. Podbean, iTunes, Spotify.
Cool. All right. Um, you know, I
Audio.
absolutely love talking to you, John. I wish I had more to talk to you about. I It was really fantastic talking to you. I hope we
Awesome.
can do it again soon sometime.
Cool, man.
That would be really
Yeah, let
cool.
me
I,
know.
I would love to talk to you again sometime, and I can come up with some other questions because man, you're really knowledgeable about some of this stuff that I wasn't even expecting for us to have a conversation about. So that was really cool, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Um, Jon Fitch, please go check out johnfitch.net. Check him out on YouTube. Check him out anywhere online. Honestly, it seems like he's everywhere. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Laters.